we bring you to the darker side of investigations. This is the Investigation Guru podcast with Sean and Dana.
Hello, and welcome to the Investigation Guru podcast. This is the official podcast for Red Door Investigations. My name is Sean, and I will be with you this evening. I know we've kind of been away for a little bit. I want to apologize for that. Had a lot of things going on. So hopefully from now on, new year, et cetera, we will be able to post a little bit more frequently. We're going to kind of change up the form a little bit from what we've been doing. We're going to post in a few little private investigator kind of tips and tricks for people in the field. They might also be kind of interesting or useful for you as well. People who are not private investigators, just the members of the general public that, have always wondered about the mystique or a lot of the misconceptions that private investigators may have, or that the public may have about private investigators. We can chalk that up to, movies and television kind of grossly distorting what we are and what we are not allowed to do. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we will be able to post a lot more frequently from this point forward. So we're going to, again, kind of have these little bit shorter podcast episodes interspersed with the longer true crime ones that we're going to keep doing. So hopefully that will kind of be interesting as well. It also allows us to post a little bit more frequently. So hopefully that will kind of keep us on schedule and allow us to kind of just jump in and put a little bit of information out there for you. And then while we're researching and doing the longer true crime stuff that most of you are probably here to hear. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about 5 of the things that private investigators are legally allowed to do. Now, private investigators, again, have kind of this mystique. A lot of the movies and television shows out there that, kind of paint an unfair picture of what a private investigator is actually allowed to do. A lot of the things that are on TV and movies, just like anything else, is grossly grossly overrated, grossly overdone, Hollywoodized, whatever. A lot of the life of a real private investigator, especially in today's market, is actually pretty boring. It's a lot of sitting in the car and waiting for something to happen. You have to kind of keep this fixed attention on, a door or a car or something for hours and hours and hours on the off chance that, something interesting might happen that you can get on video for your client. It's not, it's not all high speed police chases. Most private investigators don't carry a gun, for example. We're not allowed to arrest people. We're not allowed to, break and enter and hack people's phones and things like that. But there are some things that private investigators are legally allowed to do that kind of might actually surprise a lot of people who are not in the field. Although there are, some things that we cannot do, and we're going to talk about that in the actual next episode. And there are some very morally loose private investigators out there working. Most of us who value our licenses and who, have kind of this ethical standard that we want to uphold are going to abide by the laws in the state in which they practice. And those laws are, in some cases, they're actually pretty tough. Private investigators can get into a lot of trouble if we, enter private property without permission, for example. So a lot of these things that we're going to be talking about, we're going to list 5. I want to kind of just keep this short and sweet, 15, 20-minute episode, and just make it kind of easily digestible. But so here we go. This is 5 things that a private investigator is legally allowed to do in most states in the United States. Number 1, as long as we aren't on private property, a private investigator can sit outside of your house or workplace and watch everything that you do. This is kind of might be a little bit irritating or even maybe sometimes even a little bit unnerving for members of the general public. You look out your window and you see this car sitting on the street, and that car has been there for hours and hours and hours. And You have no idea. You can see someone in the car, or sometimes, if the windows are tinted really dark and that private investigator wants to be sneaky, then we have ways of kind of hiding the fact that we are in there and what we're doing. But a car that's sitting there for hours that you don't recognize, that's more than likely a private investigator that is watching someone on your street. It may or may not be you. The only way you really know is to go up and approach the private investigator. And if you do that, then, they will probably leave before you even get up to the car, because they don't want to be approached. We like our privacy. We like not being noticed. That's kind of our bread and butter. So most private investigators don't want you to know that they are there. So the ever vigilant, nosy neighbor who, takes note of every single vehicle or every single happening that happens on her street or his street, they are kind of a private investigator's worst enemy. They are, some people will, meddle, and even, some courageous people will even approach a vehicle that's been, suspiciously sitting there. But we are well within our rights to sit on a public street and wait for you to come out. We can also sit outside of your job and wait for you to come out. We usually have a vehicle or an address that we're watching, and any kind of movement or activity at that address or in that vehicle is fair game. The only thing we cannot do in that situation is peek inside of your house. We cannot enter your property. We can't set foot on your yard or anything like that. We can't, scale the fence in the backyard and come in and plant cameras outside your house and peek in your windows. That is very, very illegal, and that will get us in trouble in a hurry. But again, there are some morally loose private investigators out there who will not have a problem doing that. They are few, but they, kind of the one bad apple spoils the bunch. They kind of give the rest of us a really bad name. But we are, of course, well within our right to sit on that public street and wait for you to emerge. Everything you do inside your house or inside a barn or anything like that may be on your property, that is off limits. We cannot, again, plant some kind of camera or zoom lens and try and peek inside of your windows. That is, you have a reasonable expectation of privacy, and that is very, very, very bad. Anything that, any evidence we could possibly get using that would not be admissible in court and would probably have our license revoked. So, there's an airplane coming over. Sorry. Hope that doesn't come across. But once you emerge from your house, then everything you do is within the public domain and it is fair game. And the astute private investigator who's been sitting there for 9.5 hours waiting for you to come out and get your mail, you filed a disability claim and, you're playing with your kids and whatever, moving furniture, all of that is all fair game. We're going to get that on video and you are done. We are very good at making sure that, everything that is legal, that we are going to catch and we are going to get that on video, and that person is done. Again, it's a public street. We have just as much right to park there as anyone else. And, if you feel like someone is suspicious, or, you have a suspicious vehicle outside your house, or, this vehicle's been there for a long time, go ahead and call the police. We're very familiar with dealing with cops. It happens all the time. And a police officer will come up and kind of ask us what we're doing, and we'll show them our ID and tell them that, we're on a surveillance, and the police officer says, okay, well, have a nice day. And, we got a call for, a suspicious vehicle. And, now that they know that there's a private investigator in the area, any further calls, that might be made that, there's a suspicious vehicle on this street or in this area or whatever. And, private investigator might, move, if somebody parks on the street and blocks our view or something like that, then we might move to another area. But for all intents and purposes, we like to stay in one spot. We pick out a good spot and we stay there. We're not going to park right out in front of the house of the person that we're watching. So if we are parked in front of your house, that means that we are probably not watching you. We are watching someone up the street. So hopefully you don't know who it is, or, again, if you approach the vehicle, then the private investigator will probably drive off long before you get there if they, catch wind that anyone has noticed that we are there. All right. Number 2, we can follow you wherever you go, and we can record everything that you do there. So if you go into the mall, or you go into a movie theater, or you go into any place that isn't private property, we cannot follow you again into private property. We can't follow you into your office building, for example. We can't follow you obviously into your house. But if it's somewhere in public, you go to Six Flags, or you take your mistress out on the town for a movie, or at the club, we are going to be there. And we have many, many ways of sneakily recording you doing everything that you're going to be doing. We have cameras that are, designed to look like all kinds of things. Cameras that can fit in the palm of your hand, cameras that look like key fobs, cameras that can be disguised as buttons on our shirt, cameras that are implanted in a pair of glasses that we put on our head, little ink pens that we have in our shirt. There are all kinds of hidden cameras out there that we have access to, and any good private investigator is going to have access to more than one. And we will follow you, and you will never know that we are there. You will never know that you're being recorded. Hopefully, if the private investigator is good at what he does, then hopefully, you will never know that we just got you. And we're going to upload that information to your spouse or your insurance company. And that day of moving furniture, or that night of, smoochy with your mistress or your mister, you are toast. So bear that in mind. Anything you do out in public is well within the public domain and is fair game. Once you enter private property, then that is where we draw the line and we cannot go. Private property is private. There are some caveats to this, though. Your vehicle, if you enter your vehicle with that special someone and you start making out, if we can see through the windows, that is fair game. Private investigator is well within his right to sit in his vehicle and record what you are doing in yours, because the windows are just as good for seeing into your car as they are for seeing out. And if you are in your car doing something that you are not supposed to do, then the law says that you do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy, and we gotcha. So again, we are going to follow every single move that you make in public and get you doing anything that we think might be of value to our client. Number 3, we can go through your garbage. Yes, once you set out your garbage to be collected, it is fair game. A private investigator is well within the legal rights to drive right up to your curb, take your trash bags out of your little bin, throw them in the back of his truck, and take off. And what we find in there is fair game. We are well within the law, and that is that. So if you have receipts for your, night out, or you're on probation and you're not supposed to be drinking alcohol or whatever, if we find any kind of syringes or any kind of anything in there that might be considered any kind of violation or anything that might be, again, of interest to our client, you are done. That's just all there is to it. It is not your trash. Again, it has to be, you have to set it out on the curb for pickup. But once you do that, it is no longer really considered your property. It is, I guess it would be the city's property. And once you set it out, anyone can drive up, not just private investigators. People, identity thieves. That's a really good way to get your identity stolen, is setting your garbage out the night before. A very good rule of thumb, a very good practice to get in the habit of doing is to set your garbage out the day of collection. Try not to set your garbage out the night before, which is kind of a common practice for a lot of people, because if you do that, you're just begging for someone to drive up, snatch it, and go through it and rip your life apart. So kind of keep that in mind. A lot of people don't realize that, once you set out your garbage, it's not yours anymore. It's not any kind of legal invasion of privacy. That is something that a lot of people really, again, don't realize, and they are kind of setting themselves up for a lot of trouble. Not only from private investigators who want to get dirt on you or any kind of personal information, but also identity thieves. People, credit card receipts and bank statements and phone records and all of that. Don't shred it. Do not put that in the trash. The trash is actually probably one of the worst places you can put any kind of sensitive documents. So keep that in mind. Be very, very cognizant and very, very vigilant about what you do with your information. This also goes for what you post online, Facebook, Instagram, all of these things. The well-seasoned investigator, the well-seasoned hacker, the well-seasoned, identity thief. That's one of the first places that we look is on your online profile, your social media, because people are usually very unguarded. And if you're posting pictures and stuff on, or your mistress or your mister is posting pictures of the two of you together, thinking that, no one's going to really notice, or the spouse, this might be safe because it's not on the subject's timeline or account, whatever. Wrong. We have databases, we have software that allows us to cross-reference and match any kind of picture or tag or any kind of mention of anybody online. And they are very, very good at picking up not only, the true name of the person, but also any aliases that they might be, using. So again, be very cognizant and very aware of what you put out in the public, because once you put it out in the public, it is fair game, and it is well within the rights of anyone to drive up and take it. Now, what we do with that information, that's going to define the legality of it. Obviously, using it for identity theft or something like that, that is very illegal. But using it in the course of business for a private investigator is not. Everything we find there will be well admissible, and the judge will just take it in stride, and everything will be there. And, if there's something in there that you don't want your spouse to see, or there's something in there that you don't want the IRS or your insurance agency or your job or anything like that, make sure that you destroy it. Don't throw it away. Throwing it away is probably, again, one of the worst places that you can put sensitive information. So keep that in mind as well. Number 4, we can lie to you, your family, and your acquaintances. We cannot lie to our clients, though. Again, it's not really lying so much. It's called a pretext. And what a pretext is basically using false information in order to get the information that we want. There are, again, some caveats here. We cannot claim that we are a member of law enforcement. I can't, call your spouse and say that I'm with the FBI and you're wanted for questioning, etc. That's a big no-no. But I can call and say, I'm your long lost buddy from college, and I'm trying to get the old gang together, and the contact number I have is no longer good, and I wondering if you have a good number for this person, if you know where they work, so I can stop by and say hi. You'd be amazed at what people will give up, the information that they will tell, if you ask for it the right way. So again, we also, again, there are a couple of correlators to this. Again, we can't say that we are with law enforcement. We also can't claim to be you and call your bank, for example, and try to get your banking information. There is some information that is completely off limits. Your medical records, For example, we can't, access those medical records. That is a violation of the HIPAA laws. HIPAA, I believe. I'm not exactly sure what it stands for. Your financial records are completely off limits, and surprisingly, your educational records are off limits. We can't, get your transcripts from your MBA, for example, to find out, what kind of grade you got. That is a violation of FERPA laws, FERPA. So again, there are certain things that we don't have access to, but, a pretext is, I guess, if private investigators get any kind of bad rap or kind of this bad reputation, this would probably be it. A lot of private investigators don't really like using pretext simply because it seems shady and or kind of dirty. It borders on kind of that ethical violation, but again, it's perfectly legal. As long as we don't say we're a member of law enforcement, as long as we don't say that we don't impersonate you in an attempt to get information that we would not be otherwise able to get. But if we want to social engineer, your mother-in-law or your ex-spouse or your boss or anything like that, that is well within our rights. As long as we, kind of maintain that distance from you and that distance from law enforcement. And number 5, we can use any public record available in order to deliver the most complete package of information to our clients. You would be amazed at all of the information about you that is online. It would stun you and shock you the wealth of things that are available to someone who knows how to find it. Even a simple Google search. Try this. Go and if you've never Googled your name, go Google your name. Any mention of you for the past 25 years is going to come up. And a lot of things that you might have even forgotten about are going to come up. And that's just with a Google search. There are all kinds of databases out there that have all kinds of information about you. And we can use this to, find out almost anything. Find out your social security number, find out your cell phone, find out the last 15 addresses that you've lived at, your ex-spouses, what kind of cars you drive, what kind of jobs you have, if you have a bankruptcy, if you have a 15 DWIs, if you're a sexual predator. The list goes on and on and on. And these are all just things that are in the public view. If you really want to get crafty and creative, you can go into something called Open Source Intelligence, or OSINT, OSINT. And this is kind of a branch of digital forensics whereby there are certain rules and certain things, certain techniques that a skilled investigator can use to find out all kinds of information. Even stuff that you did not put out there. Everything is databased, everything is cataloged. Everything you put on Facebook, all of the advertising that's geared towards you, all of that, everything goes into a database somewhere. It is never lost. It is never deleted. It is never erased. What you put on the internet is out there for good. It is out there forever. And if it's something bad or something that you don't want out there, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to get that gone. There are private investigator firms that specialize in digital forensics and in finding, missing children and finding, missing relatives and things. And all of this can be found online. And we have access to very specific databases that will give us all kinds of information. And we can take one piece of information and match it up to another piece. And it's a lot like kind of doing a genealogy tree where we find, matches for this document and matches for this. And, this person comes back and then another person will pop up that we hadn't even thought of before. And we can go down that rabbit hole. So they're just all of the treasure trove, the wealth of information that is online is shocking and stunning. There is no more anonymity. There is no more privacy. There is no more, being out or the ability to disappear. It's very disheartening. It's very almost defeatist that, it's stuff that you personally you don't have to put it out there. People are doing it for you. So again, just, try and make it harder for people to find out stuff about you. Don't put stuff out there on the internet that, you may not want to come back to haunt you, or you may not want your spouse to find out, or you may not want, blown up on a 60-inch television in the middle of a courtroom. Because if it's out there, there's somebody out there who can find it. And the more skilled the investigator is, the more stuff that they can dig up. I've seen things that, I was shocked and amazed at what all, and there is just so much information out there that a lot of it is private stuff. A lot of it is stuff that shouldn't be let loose into the world. And we have to kind of, redact that, or we have to kind of, pull that from, not share that with our clients, or not share that with anyone, because again, it's stuff that has no business, being out there. I'm trying to think of a good example. Nothing's really coming to mind at the moment. But I mean, you've heard all the horror stories, the site locking thing. Places like McAfee, I think, has a digital monitoring service. But yeah, look into those and keep your data very, very close to your chest. Don't make it easier by volunteering that information, because I promise you, there's a lot out there that you didn't put out there. It was put out there for you. So obviously be very vigilant and keep that in mind next time that you fill out a form for your health insurance, or you fill out a form, you do your taxes online, you do, everything is online, everything is available, and everything is saved and databased and cataloged. All your usernames and passwords, guard those, keep those very, very secure. Don't use the same password for multiple websites. Just things like that. Be smart, because the hackers, the guys who want your information, the guys who have nefarious purposes or are not really out for your best interest, they are very, very good at what they do. So don't make it easier for them by volunteering it. Just keep your secure information very, very close to your chest, and make sure that you guard it with your life. Okay, so that was 5 things that a private investigator is legally allowed to do that might surprise a lot of members of the public. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you learned a little bit today. Hopefully it kind of gave you some pause on what you have out there. If you leave us a comment about what you thought, if you learned anything, or if you have anything else to add, we would love to get in touch and be able to incorporate that. All right. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.